Austrian Grand Prix. Okay, so before we get into the Austrian Grand Prix, we've got to take a look back at Canada, the Canadian Grand Prix, because we did not talk about that last week. George Russell gets the win. It's the first non-Max and McLaren win of 2025, plus, believe it or not, Antonelli on the podium. Wow. Who would have thought that? Russell and Antonelli on the podium. That would have been a big payday if you put that parlay together. So why was that the deal? What made Canada such a freaky result? Is this something that is just completely out of nowhere, or is now Canada all of a sudden a track where crazy things can happen?
No, I don't think it was completely out of nowhere, because Mercedes and George Russell have just been executing. We've been talking about that all season long. I think the conditions with Canada and the layout of the track just really favored Mercedes that weekend. If you remember, that weekend was actually cold, unlike now, where we're all dying here in the heat. Montreal was actually cold that weekend, and the colder temperatures coupled with slow corners meant that Mercedes was able to manage their tire temperatures appropriately, and George Russell and Kimi Antonelli capitalized. So I think you're going to see a very different race when we come to Austria here this week, because you've got a track that has medium and high speed corners. The temperature is going to be significantly warmer. I think that will be a real true test to see where Mercedes actually stands, which, quite honest with you, I think it's more like third, fourth in the ranking. I still think it's McLaren top of the heap, Max Verstappen it behind the wheel of the Red Bull, and then pick your choice between Russell Mercedes and Ferrari, depending upon the track and the weekend. But really, the conditions and the layout of Canada being a cold weekend, that just all played right into George Russell and Mercedes' hands.
Okay, so it took them almost 6 hours, 5 hours and 34 minutes to come up with a final decision on who won the race. Why did it take so long, and what was that about?
There were caution periods. So there was a safety car period with Russell in the lead and Verstappen behind him. Under safety car rules, you're not allowed to pass. On the back straight, under the safety car, Russell slowed down. Verstappen slightly went ahead of him. His nose went further forward than Russell. So does that count as a pass or not? Russell immediately called on the radio and said, he passed me under the safety car. Verstappen was equally right on the radio saying, Russell slowed down unexpectedly, and I had to swerve to avoid him, or whatever the case was.
And that took 5.5 hours to figure out.
Now, the reason why it took 5.5 hours to figure that out is that the FIA and the race stewards investigate infractions in the order in which they're received, not by the level of importance. Given all of the other infractions that they had to review, you would have thought this probably would have risen to the top. And if you're ranking by terms,
you would think so.
You'd think this one probably would be at the top. However, since they do it in first in, first out type of order, that's why it took so long. At the end of the day, it was a giant nothing burger. They're both claiming on the radio that the other did something wrong, trying to get, a favorable penalty. Quite honestly, to me, as a soccer fan, this is turning into what you see in soccer, and why a lot of people don't watch soccer, because you got people that are diving just trying to get fouls and penalties. And I think that was exactly the case that we saw here. At the end, it didn't matter. Verstappen didn't pass him. Russell didn't, explicitly slow down, didn't brake check him or anything. And FIA continues to be inept by not ranking or looking at infractions by level of importance, but simply in the order in which they're received. So fault all around on this one, in my opinion.
And again, I'm far from an F1 expert, but or even trying to understand the differences between the drivers' mentality in both series, NASCAR and F1. But I don't know. It's just, like you were saying, there's a lot of weird stuff going on now with the drivers. You just wonder whether or not you're in a situation where these drivers have these, they're high strung as well. They should be, and they can't, like what they say in NASCAR, let them have it, work it out on the track, but you can't work it out of the track in F1. That's the problem. If you try to work it out on the track in F1, you'll get penalized.
If they try to work it out on the track in F1, you also end up what you had in Austria last year, which George Russell also won. But Lando Norris, if you recall, was racing Max Verstappen for the lead, and the pair collided going into turn two. They both ended up with penalties, and they both ended up with damaged cars. So I agree. The conversation we had several weeks ago, I would love to see Max Verstappen come over and try NASCAR. It's a more style of racing where they put it more into the driver's hands. You can't do that, number one, with the cars in Formula One, but then number two, I think they just over officiate. And IndyCar used to be that way, but I think IndyCar has gotten a lot better in the last couple of seasons. I think we're seeing some pretty fair rulings from IndyCar. I think with NASCAR and Formula One, we still have ups and downs in terms of the officiating.
Boy, man, if I mean, obviously there'd be a lot of things I would do if I had a lot of money, but one of the things I might do is I would pick up the phone and call Max's people and say, hey, I got a sponsorship deal for Max NASCAR. Name is Price. So
it'd be interesting.
Yep. Okay. Why on earth did the two championship race leaders with 3 laps to go in a race where they're 4th and 5th, which they might as well be 30th in F1, why are they going toe to toe and putting themselves in a position which actually ended up happening where Norris wound up wrecking? Why would they do that?
Your guess is as good as mine. It was a total bonehead move on Norris's part. If you watch the replay back, Piastri took the racing line. You come off of the wall of champions and you come toward the inside of the track or the outside of the track, since Canada goes the opposite direction, before taking turn one, before setting yourself up in a straight line for turn one. And that was exactly the line that Piastri was on. And if you look at Norris behind him, there was never any chance of room for another car to be there. Norris, I don't know if he misjudged it, if he thought there was going to be enough room, if he wasn't prepared. It was just a bonehead mistake on Norris's part, which, I give him all the credit in the world, because when he came on the radio after his car stopped sliding, that was the first thing he said. It's my fault. I shouldn't have done that. You don't make contact with your teammates, which he did. He didn't have room to make a move, which he did. He's racing for the championship, and he crashed. I mean, all of those are strikes against Norris. It was a bonehead move. This is evidence of exactly what we've been talking about all season and most of last year, in that, number one, McLaren has to, at some point, put one of their drivers ahead of the other. And at this point, if it's not Piastri, I want to know what they're smoking. And number two, Norris and his mental state, he's got to be more calm under these situations. Same thing with Verstappen. We see those two clash. You get that moment of red mist in your eyes, and it ends up being detrimental to your entire season. And I think that's exactly what we saw 2 weeks ago in Canada. And Norris cannot afford to do that again. Otherwise, he's just throwing that championship away. And that's why the odds are what they are on the screen right now.
Are we at a point yet where even at minus 210, it's a good wager?
It is getting there. I think it's still early. We still have probably 3 races, I think, if not 4, actually, until we get to the summer break, where they take those 3 weeks off. And a lot can change. I mean, this has been the most competitive Formula One season I think we've seen in several years. Obviously, McLaren has the best car, but they're not winning every single race. And by the way, you don't know which McLaren driver is ultimately going to win each week. So Norris could very easily fix whatever's going on in his head over those 3 weeks, meet with a sports psychologist, whatever the case may be, and get his act together. He's got the car that can do it. I think we're getting close, but it's still a little bit too early for me to be taking -2 Austria.
Who do you think? Do we know yet who's a better driver?
Wow. Last year you would have said that it was Norris. This year you would say that it's Piastri. So I'd like to see a consistent stretch with Norris not making mistakes, and McLaren, by the way, not making mistakes too, because the team has made poor strategy calls as well to see, who's coming out on top. Right now, it's definitely Piastri. But this time last year, we would have said Norris. So maybe 6 of one, half dozen the other. If we can get a consistent stretch without mistakes from either one or the team, maybe then we'd be able to better say.
Yeah, because it would be nice to see if we had another manufacturer that would be closer to another team that would be closer to McLaren, where they would be able to put more pressure.
Absolutely.
And maybe that would, because that would give us an idea of whether or not they are, like, do they have the people that are championship worthy? Because sometimes when you just have the best car, sometimes I know most of the time in this particular series, if you win championships, if you win a first one, a lot of times you're going to win a second and a third, and we've seen that happen a lot. And those are great drivers. But I don't know. I don't know if we're in that situation. I don't know if we know that. I don't know if Piastri wins this year, that maybe Norris wins next year. And if that's the case, then I wish we had a little bit more pressure on these guys just to see if they were really championship worthy. Otherwise, like you said, that's why maybe it would be nice for them to either make the decision on which way to go. I don't know. But if they do that, then for the fans' sake, that's not what the fans probably want to see if they're not Piastri or Norris fans, because they want to see them duking it out. So.
Yeah, McLaren has said all along that the drivers are free to race, but the money aspect, the ability, the desire to win both championships, not just the drivers' championship, but more importantly, the constructors' championship, I think they've got to start keeping their drivers in line. So, unfortunately next year, or fortunately, depending upon how you look at it, I guess, unfortunately, we're probably never going to be able to answer the question that you asked. But fortunately, next year we have a complete revamp of the rules, which means we'll probably see a significant jumble in the order, and perhaps we'll have some closer competition once we get into next season.
Okay. Give us your play of the week for the Austrian Grand Prix.
Play of the week, honestly, is going to be Max Verstappen. So I think Piastri is the deserved favorite here. But Austria's Red Bull's home. This is the Red Bull Ring. Max Verstappen's been very good at this track. He was on his way to win last year, won the year before he ended up colliding with Norris. This is a place where if Verstappen can pull out that magical qualifying lap, he can keep the competition behind him throughout the race. And I think that the Red Bull is going to be stronger here than certainly we saw at other tracks throughout this year. So I would not discount Verstappen to really give a good threat to Piastri and Norris this week in the McLarens. I do think Piastri is a deserved favorite, but from a value standpoint, I think you're getting some really good value with Max Verstappen there, because like I said, if he gets that pole position, or if he gets a great start and is able to lead into turn one, this is a track where he can keep the competition behind him.
And if somebody is looking for that George Russell or Antonelli type of long shot this week, what kind of a long shot best advice you'd give them?
So you'd be looking at a podium finish, and you'd probably want to be looking at Antonelli, to be honest with you.
Really? Again,
Mercedes just continues to execute. Last race, the podium finish for Antonelli was Antonelli's best since the first race of the season. He finished fourth in Australia. Again, this is a track where Mercedes has had success and they can perform consistently at. And what last race's podium finish shows me is that Antonelli is maturing in the cockpit. He's getting used to being in the team. He's getting used to the regimen, getting used to the races. I think Antonelli probably would be a good long shot podium finisher again this week.
Okay. And what are the odds on that?
Scroll up. It would be, you'll have to go up to the next. There you go.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Plus 450.
Okay. Plus 450 for the podium. Okay.
Yeah, it looks like the odds are saying the Ferrari, Charles Leclerc, and Lewis Hamilton would be second favorite, I guess, to finish, or more favored than Antonelli to finish on the podium. I just think Ferrari is too far behind. Give me a race where Ferrari is caught up and they're being competitive again. They're making mistakes. They seem to have gone the wrong direction with some of their development items. So I think Mercedes is more on the right path, and Antonelli coming up to speed is your better bargain there.
And the F1 movie is out in a few days.
I've seen mixed reviews. I don't know what you've seen.
What I've seen is that if you're an F1 fan and that's really your main thing, is you want to go into a movie theater and get the whole, experience of F1 cars on the big screen and with the sound effects and everything, then that's what you're going to get. You're going to enjoy that. And there you go. As far as, what does that tell you? That tells you the story is probably not all that riveting. And here's the thing that all I needed to see too. Now, look, I don't know the makeup of F1. You do. But when I'm looking at these reviews and I'm looking at like who are the players in this movie, and the main, of course, you got Brad Pitt as the old driver. But the main young driver just happens to be black, and the engineer is a girl.
Yes.
So now we've got the full-on woke movie situation where we've got to have a female lead, we've got to have the black lead, and we've got their Brad Pitt. And now, sometimes if it's written correctly, you can get around that, and it could still be a good movie. But since they're already saying what they're saying, it leads me to believe that it's not going to be. And therefore, again, if you want to go and watch just because you want to get that whole experience there, they say that's all really cool. They did a really good job of, being in the F1 car, equating it to like Tom Cruise, in the jets, that kind of thing. So yeah, that's what I've heard. So tell me if I'm wrong. Are there a wide variety of female big-time engineers that are leading F1?
There actually are. There are several. There have been some that one that's commentating on Sky Sports actually came from engineering in a couple of the teams, actually. So they are out there for sure, very successful in 24 Hours of Le Mans. That's where some of them have come from as well. They're starting to become more populous throughout the paddock, and which is a good thing. And
sure,
I guess my thing for this movie is just don't be as bad as that Sylvester Stallone one.
No, come on.
With the IndyCar. If it's not as bad as that one, they're doing something better, which is a step in the right direction. So please just don't be as bad as that one was. That was awful.
And the black driver, is he South African? Is he? Do you know?
Where
if you knew a black, or it could be French. If you knew a black driver was going in F1 was going to be put out as like the next great thing possibly, what nationality would you think he would be?
British, Lewis Hamilton.
Okay, well, interesting. And who else? Give me like a top three. Would it be France in there? Or there are no good French F1 drivers? I don't know.
Probably not many in Formula One. IndyCar, Indy Lights, or I guess it's Indy Lights. Indy NXT has a black driver that's up and coming, so possibly American. Maybe we could have a black American driver come up to Formula One as well. That would be pretty cool to see as well.
Yeah, I don't.
Lewis Hamilton.
I think he had a national. I think he had a. What was that?
Lewis Hamilton, without a doubt.
That makes a lot. Yeah, that makes the most sense. Yeah.
Dominant in all motorsports, black driver for sure.
Okay.
I want to make sure I get the name of the Indy NXT guys because I think he's great. Yeah, Miles Rowe, driving the number 99 for Able Motorsports, United States. Check him out. Up and coming American black driver. It'd be great to see him make it to Formula One.
And whoever comes next, say for NASCAR, needs to be a little bit different personality than Bubba Wallace. Bubba has not done well PR wise in NASCAR. But hey, he's going to be driving for at least another year and a half. So, because silly season for NASCAR is actually going to be pretty boring from what I could tell. Looks like everybody's locked in until next year.
Most people, those who are hunting, seem to have signed long-term deals or several-year deals over the recent signings, I guess. But yeah, we still got a ways to go before we get to silly season for NASCAR. But like you said, I don't anticipate it being anything tremendous.
And you're going to have the F1 report from rotowire.com available probably by Friday as well?
Yeah, we'll definitely have that one out by Friday since practice starts for Formula One in Austria on Friday. We can put the link for that under the F1 video here as well.
And are you going to go to the movies to see this F1 movie?
I will not be going to the movie. I will wait until it comes to a streaming service, and then
they're going to ruin everything because that's when you can't take advantage of, and that means the movie is really going to be bad on a streaming service.
That's true. Yeah, probably. I guess based on the reviews that you
check the reviews out. Yeah,
to go see it in an IMAX theater or something like that.
Yeah. That would be it. If you get good reviews better than you think, then go see it. If not, then yeah, it probably ain't going to matter anyway. So